What you're looking at is real. Rivers of glowing lava pouring down Etna, filmed by drone just weeks ago. But what's actually keeping geologists up at night isn't that lava. It's an entire flank of the volcano sliding silently into the sea. Not a theory. A measurement tracked from the seafloor every 90 minutes. And now we have the number that matters. If that flank gives way, Sicily will have just 10 minutes before the wave arrives. 10 minutes. But there's a cable in the Ionian Sea built to try to buy that time back. If you haven't seen how this fissure opened, the video is in the card right up here. But stay with us, because here on Geology Info, we're going straight to the data from the people monitoring this collapse up close. For years, the leading theory was simple. Etna moves because magma pushes it from below. Volcanoes known for constant activity like Etna reinforce that intuition. If the mountain is always active, any movement seems like it must come from inside. That theory is wrong. In 2018, researchers from GEOMAR in Germany dropped 6 stations onto the seafloor off the Sicilian coast, 700 meters, 2,300 feet down. Each station pings its neighbors with an acoustic signal every 90 minutes, accurate to under 1 centimeter, 0.4 inches. What that network caught was direct. In 2017, Etna's eastern flank moved 4 centimeters, 1.6 inches, in just 8 days. No earthquake anyone felt. A silent slip along a fault, what geologists call aseismic creep. It's worth noting that the 2017 episode was a burst, not the steady day-to-day pace. Most of the time, the flank moves slowly and almost imperceptibly to instruments. Every so often, the fault releases a faster pulse of movement before settling back into its normal rhythm. Geologists observe this same behavior, called a slow slip event, on other faults around the world, including stretches of the coast of Japan and New Zealand, which suggests Etna isn't an isolated case. It's a particularly well-documented example of a broader phenomenon. It's worth explaining why this network doesn't just use GPS. Satellite signal doesn't travel through a water column, so any precision monitoring on the seafloor needs a different physical principle. That's why the GEOMAR network works like a high-precision sonar. Each station times, in milliseconds, how long sound takes to travel to its neighbor and back. A longer delay means the distance between the 2 stations grew, and that's how a 4-centimeter shift shows up in the data, with nobody needing to dive down to measure anything. The cause isn't volcanic pressure. It's gravity, plain and simple. Etna's eastern flank has nothing holding it up on the seaside. No neighboring mountain range, no geological buttress, just the open, deep Ionian Sea. The mountain gives way toward the path of least resistance at about 14 millimeters, 0.55 inches, a year. Slower than your fingernails grow, but on a rock scale large enough to redraw this coastline within a few decades. That's why this year's events worried so many people. In January 2026, a new fissure opened on the eastern flank, in the Valle del Bove, at 2,900 meters, 6,890 feet, and lava flowed down to 1,120 meters, 4,660 feet. In June, a crack appeared at the top of the Voragine crater and ran down the flank, alongside a new fissure near the Valle del Leoni. That activity escalated in the first days of July. Ash emissions began at the Voragine crater, the aviation color code was raised from orange to red, and Catania Airport suspended operations on July 6th, with roughly 130 flights canceled. By the time of this recording, activity had already dropped back to a quiet level, with the alert downgraded and no risk to populated areas. Here's where most Etna videos get it wrong. Those fissures are normal eruptions, part of the volcano's regular cycle. The flank slide is a different phenomenon, slower, measured in millimeters a year, not lava flows. Both processes happen on the same mountain and can influence each other a little, but they aren't the same thing. Mixing the two up is the most common mistake in Etna coverage. To understand why geologists watch this kind of movement so closely, it helps to look at another case on the other side of the Atlantic. In 1980, the north flank of Mount St. Helens in the United States gave way all at once, in a matter of minutes, after weeks of visible bulging on the slope. The collapse triggered the largest landslide ever recorded, and unleashed a lateral blast that flattened dozens of kilometers of forest. 57 people lost their lives in that single event, many of them believing they were still watching from a safe distance. Etna's case is the opposite. No visible bulging, no sign a resident on the coast could ever notice with the naked eye. It's a slow process, measured in millimeters, that only becomes visible through scientific instruments. That doesn't make the risk smaller. It makes it harder to communicate, because there's no obvious warning moment before the fact. Taking this seriously isn't overreacting. In the early morning of December 28, 1908, an earthquake estimated at magnitude 7.1 shook the Strait of Messina for roughly 30 seconds. The wave it generated devastated the city and the Calabrian coast within minutes. Estimates of lives lost vary widely among historians, but they converge in a range between 60,000 and more than 100,000, still considered the deadliest seismic disaster ever recorded in Europe. And it happened in the same tectonic region we're describing now. On the other side of the strait, the city of Reggio Calabria sits in that same risk zone. The 1908 event struck both sides of the strait the same morning, which is a reminder that this isn't only a Sicilian vulnerability. It belongs to the entire coastline ringing this stretch of the Ionian and Tyrrhenian seas. Today, Sicily's eastern coast is home to more than 1 million people, including Catania, the island's second largest city. A sudden, partial collapse of Etna's submerged flank, even a small one, could generate a regional wave along the Ionian coast. We're not talking about a wave sweeping across the entire Mediterranean. That would be an overstatement. We're talking about a concentrated, real risk on the nearest stretch of coast. This is where the Focus project comes in. Off the coast of Sicily, researchers installed a 6-kilometer, 3.7-mile fiber-optic cable, built like an ordinary telecom cable, but packed with special sensing fibers. That cable crosses a mapped fault on the seafloor and connects to an underwater observatory. Any tectonic movement tugs on the cable and stretches the optical fibers inside it, and that strain can be measured in real time. The principle behind it is simple to grasp, even without a technical background. Light travels through an optical fiber at a constant, predictable speed. When the cable stretches, even by a fraction of a millimeter, the path that light travels changes, and that change can be detected and timed at both ends of the cable. It's the same fiber optic principle carrying billions of people's internet, just repurposed here as a geological instrument. That's the same underlying physics engineers use to detect tiny temperature and pressure changes along thousands of kilometers of undersea cable, repurposed here to catch something the cable was never originally built to sense. The project cost 2.4 million euros, cheap for the kind of data it produces. And it's only the edge of a bigger shift. There are more than one. 5 million kilometers, 930,000 miles, of undersea internet cable circling the planet. Caltech researchers have already shown this same principle working in other seismic regions of the planet without spending an extra euro on new equipment, just by analyzing the signal already running through existing cables, the same ones carrying your videos and messages every day. According to Italy's Civil Protection Department, that 10 to 15-minute window is the real time we have for near-source tsunamis. The problem is that today's warning networks were built mainly to catch earthquakes on land. When the source sits just a few kilometers offshore, that lag eats into a window that's already short. A cable like Focus, sitting right on top of the fault itself, closes that distance and hands back some of those minutes. It doesn't remove the risk, but it's the difference between a 10-second warning and a 10-minute one. And in an event like this, that difference decides who reaches high ground in time. Expanding this kind of sensor to more of the Sicilian and Calabrian coastline wouldn't mean starting from scratch. Much of the cable infrastructure is already sitting on the seafloor, used today only for internet traffic. The bottleneck isn't technological, it's investment and coordination between the countries and regions that share the same coastline. None of this changes life for the people who live along the Ionian coast tomorrow morning. Fishermen in Catania, families in Acquariale, keep waking up next to a volcano that moves a little every single day, whether they're watching it or not. The difference between this staying a chapter of geological history and it repeating itself is measured literally in seconds of fiber optic cable. Back to the question that opened this video, how much time does Sicily have? Right now, the answer is 10 to 15 minutes, and a sensor network that's still incomplete, trying to shrink that margin. If you want to see how this eastern flank fissure opened, and why geologists started watching Etna this closely, the full video is linked right here.